Good afternoon, everybody, online and offline. As online people can hear me well, can you give me thumbs up? Thumbs up.
Hey!
Good afternoon. I am Asta. I am a MA student at Central St. Martin's in London and also co-curator of School of Cyber, created for you in partnership with Neon Digital Art Festival in Dundee. We are about to begin New Ways of Seeing Art workshop. Our guest, Evie Edwards, is a talented early career artist. She is multidisciplinary researcher, currently working and living in Edinburgh. Her practice includes film, animation, photography, and sculpture, and often explores concepts of paradox, imitation, romanticism, and humor. She is driven by prospects of learning new skills and techniques, and is particularly interested in combining traditional methods of art making with innovative technologies. Recently, Evie has become increasingly interested in the coalescence of digital and fake, and has been thinking about the role of digital editing and place with both her practice and wider visual culture. Warm welcome to Evie.
Thanks, Asta. That was great. And thanks to the rest of the School of Cyber for inviting me today, and obviously Kathryn for hosting. I'm really excited to be here and to share some digital art with everyone. This is the first time that I've run a workshop of this nature, so be patient with me and with the technology if we have any mishaps, but hopefully we won't. If we go to the next slide, please, Frankie. Thanks. So to accompany Asta's introduction, I thought it might be useful to include some visuals of my own work, just before we move on to looking at the other artists today. So as Asta mentioned, I'm a fairly recent art graduate. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a digital artist, but rather a multidisciplinary artist. And I think that's the case for most of the artists that we're going to be looking at today. They don't just work with the digital, they work with a lot of other mediums in their practice. I do often work with digital content, but in amongst a range of other mediums, which you can see here in some of the videos and images that I've included. So for instance, on the left here, this is what I presented for my degree show, which is what most art students would have at the end of their degree, or in my year's case, didn't have. So I graduated in the first lockdown period. So rather than having a physical show, I decided to create a digital render of the space that I would have inhabited in my degree show. So I made some digital versions of artworks that I already had, and then some digital versions of imagined artworks that I probably wouldn't have been able to make if we had had a physical show. So this turret sculpture in the middle, I probably wouldn't have been able to make that, but we're zooming in now on the rope structure, which I did have as physical artwork. So you can see a photo of that just down here as well. That work's called Fairy Tale, and it's a sculpture that's made of synthetic hair and is 12 meters long. It's quite a versatile piece because it's very flexible. So I've shown it in quite a few different ways, sometimes hanging from a height to evoke the fairy tale of Rapunzel. But here you can see it's just piled on the floor, which was totally up to the curators at the Icon Gallery in Birmingham, but I'm quite into it, I like it. So, and the other images and videos that you can see here are slightly more recent works. This one at the bottom is an experimental video that I made in lockdown using Google Earth. And it visits 3 different castles across the globe. And this actually ended up being shown on London's Piccadilly Lights, which was really cool. It was part of the Project Circa class of 2020, which they reprised for this year, but originally in 2020 was co-curated by my friend Jodie Mulvey. So shout out to Jodie for doing that. The last few works here on the right-hand side, more works in progress, really. The video on the right is called The Cloud, and it's actually a 3D animation rather than a video footage of clouds. I designed it to be played on an iPad on a continuous loop, and that setup is shown just in that middle image. The bottom right is a digital print of a still that was taken from that animation, and you can't really get a sense of it from the photo, but it's really big and held up by tourist magnets that I bought in Edinburgh. The writing on it says, "Wish you were here." So hopefully that gives you just a little sense of what I make, but I think we can probably move on to some other artists now. So if we can have the next slide, Frankie.
Oh, there we go.
Great. Okay, before we look at the art, I'll just give you a little bit of information about the workshop. We're going to be looking at and hopefully having a little chat as well about 6 different artworks, each made by a different artist. One of the things that both myself and the School of Cyborg were super keen on was making sure that this workshop would be accessible no matter how familiar someone is with digital art. The thing about digital art, in fact actually any art, is that it can be quite hard to engage with and understand. And it's surrounded by a lot of fancy theory that can be also really hard to understand. For instance, one of the essays that informed my colleagues at the School of Cyborg, which those in the first workshop may have heard mentioned, is Donna Haraway's A Cyborg Manifesto. And this is a really great essay, but it's not an easy read at all. So today I'm trying to steer clear of the theory, and we're just going to do the more fun stuff, which is actually watching and looking at the art. So now this workshop is just a very tiny introduction to digital art. It's also very subjective because I just picked it myself, but to do so, I did set myself some rules just to narrow down the options. So the first of my self-declared workshop rules was that every artwork that we're going to look at today is made by an artist that identifies either as a woman or non-binary. This is in line with Neon Digital Arts Festival that's happening here in Dundee next week, and obviously who the School of Cyborg are partnering with today. And all the artists in the festival next week are women or non-binary, so I thought that that would be a really good place to start with this workshop. My second parameter that I decided on was that the artworks we're going to look at today would all be videos of some description. So the digital art spectrum is really broad. There is so much more to digital art than just videos. But the reason I decided on videos was because I thought it would be easy for both an audience at home, online, and also for those of us that are here in the gallery to engage with at the same time. And I didn't want to presume that anyone necessarily has access to a smartphone or computer if we were going to look at some interactive digital art. Also, it's where my own interest lies. So a lot of the artworks that we're looking at were either introduced to me by tutors at university or friends, or that I've just come across and thought that they were really interesting, or in some cases really funny. So I'm sure that there'll be some of you that are familiar with some of the works already. And the videos range between just under 2 minutes up to 8 minutes, which might be a little bit testing today. So there's no pressure. You can tune out if you want, I don't mind. Also, very in line with the accessibility, is that all the videos are available to view freely online. So anyone who wants to watch them again will be able to after the workshop. Not all artists make their digital artwork available online. This can be for a number of reasons. So they might be represented by a gallery, or if they want to be in exhibitions or collected, making a work available for the masses online might hinder that slightly. Personally, I quite like it when videos are available online, and it really kind of like harks back to when digital art first started in the 1990s, when the World Wide Web came to be a thing. So tying in with this is that most artworks we're going to look at also use open source software, or the artists use that to make the work. So this means that the computer program or app that they use to make the artwork is free to download. So I'll point out which ones are made with open source software as we go along. But this is an important point for me as, again, it's accessible. So if any of you feel inspired to make your own digital art after this workshop, you can go home and download the very same software that some of these artists have used. Plus, I'm also a fan of using open source software in my own practice. So out of those videos that I showed on the last slide, 2 of them were made with Blender, and then 1 of them were made in Google Earth. So both of those are open source software that you can download. The last thing that I have on my list here is watching before reading, or I suppose in this case, listening. So what I mean by this is what I try to do a lot of the time when I go to galleries or museums, but often fail to do, is to look at the art first before going over and reading more about it on the wall text. So what we're going to do today is we're going to watch a piece of digital art without knowing who made it, what it's called, or what it's about, so that you can all totally impartially make decisions about whether you like the artwork, what you think it might be about, how it makes you feel. And then after we've watched the artwork, I'll read a little blurb about the piece and the artist. And then if people are feeling up for it, we can have a bit of a chat about it. And I expect the School of Cyborg will want to chip in as well with some thoughts there. So if you do have any questions or comments that you would like to share, you don't have to wait until till the end. After every artwork, you will have a little chance to ask anything and have conversations with each other. There are a couple of artworks that I will give a little trigger warning to prior to playing them, but apart from that, I'll leave all the info until after we've watched the works together. There is a little bit of a flow between the artworks that we're going to look at, so perhaps you can keep an eye out and see if you can see any similarities as we're watching them. Great, thanks. Sorry for those that maybe didn't get to see the whole video. I've got a little bio to read for you about that artwork, and then we can have a chat about it. So that artwork was by an artist called Sondra Perry, and the artwork is called Typhoon Coming On. So Sondra Perry is an American artist that constructs multifaceted narratives which explore the imagining or imaging of Blackness throughout history. Often taking her own life as a point of departure, Perry makes works that revolve specifically around Black American experiences and the way in which technology and identities are entangled. Perry is committed to net neutrality and ideas of collective production and action, meaning that she often uses open source software to edit her work and makes her videos available to view for free online. So 2 things that I mentioned in that first slide. This principle of open access in Perry's practice aims to privilege Black life, to democratize access to art and culture, and to offer a critical platform that differentiates itself from the portrayal of Blackness in the media. With viral imagery of Black deaths in the US both sensationalized and the subject of widely disseminated memes, Perry wants to reclaim the digital space by foregrounding the use of technologies in her work. Now this artwork was made for a variety of displays, which you can see here. So on the left, you can see it projected around the outer walls of the gallery. And then in the center there, you can see that it's the same video, but on 3 screens, which are attached to a rowing machine. And in the water tank of the rowing machine is hair gel rather than water. So I believe the artwork was first exhibited with that exact soundscape in 2018, but the imagery comes from slightly earlier. I think it's 2 years earlier. Now, what was actually in the video that you watched was, you will notice, like 2 visuals. So the pink waves or the purple waves, they are created in Blender, which is an open source software that I mentioned, and that's the one that I use to create my own animation of the clouds. But in this case, there's a setting in Blender which is called the Ocean Modifier tool, So you can use it to create a template of an ocean that you can then animate. So that's what Perry has done here. And the purple color signifies a missing texture or a missing material in the program. So it's almost like a warning to the maker who's making the animation. So what Perry's doing here is kind of using the technology wrongly. And then she's contrasting that image of the ocean waves with a digitally manipulated image of J.M.W. Turner's 1840 painting, Slave Ship. So that painting, the original work, depicts the drowning of 133 slaves by the captain of the British slave ship Zong. And the reason that happened was so that the captain could claim compensation under the salvage clause of the ship's insurance policy. So it's a very dark painting that here she's used, and to make the kind of movement that you saw in that painting, because it wasn't just still, she's also mapped it onto the same ocean modifier. So in a way, it's like two oceans. And you can see here that this work isn't the only one that she uses like an exercise machine in. On the bottom right, she does the same with a bike machine, again with the 3 screens, but you can see instead that there's a digital avatar. And I thought it was interesting that Perry describes these kind of machinery digital works, like going inside of the body of the machines to have a conversation with them, of being encircled in an embodied kind of architecture. So that is my little intro for the work. I was wondering if anyone has any comments or anything that they'd like to bring up about Sondra Perry's work.
The Turner, that's got to be Turner. I had no idea, but it's really interesting that the juxtaposition between the two visual aesthetics, really, really striking.
It's an interesting work because it can feel quite calming to watch, but it's one of those things that really, unless you know more about it, it has a very different effect. Know the background behind the work and the artist, I think.
For sure.
And if there's anyone online as well that wants to say anything, you can just put it in the chat box, and one of the School of Cyborg will let me know.
Was there any justification for the hair gel in the water tank?
Yeah, so I believe it's a specific type of hair gel. I have it somewhere, and I believe it's for like Afro hair. I can't find the name of it quite yet, but that work on the row machine actually has a slightly longer name, so it's the same series, but it's called Wet and Wavy Looks, Typhoon coming on for a 3-monitor workstation. So it's the actual physical object has a separate name from, say, like a digital file.
Yeah.
It's Eco Styler hair gel in the tank.
Right.
And if no one does have any more questions, we can move on to the next one. Okay, great. So let's move on to our next one then. Before this one, a small trigger warning. This does have very graphic sexual dialogue, not imagery. As you can see, it's not it's like Playmobil characters, but just warn you, the dialogue is quite graphic. So
yeah, shall we just like another link to share it to?
Yeah, we can share it, and this is the only artwork that we're not going to watch all the way through. Because it's very, very long. So for those that are online and we're sharing the link, it's just episode 1, which is about 8 minutes.
Hey,
Hi.
here is better.
Yes.
So, where? Show me more. Tack of it. Wow. Nice.
Thanks. And you too.
So nice.
I'm old, so you have to be forgiving.
You seem not so old, but young.
Aw, thanks. So you take off your shirt, okay? Please.
Okay. And this way?
Nice. Yes. Now you have your shirt on your head?
Yes. I would lick your tits.
I would like that.
Do you see this?
Great. I wish I could take it out and put it in my mouth now.
Wow. I want it. Nice ass.
My phone. I have to answer. Okay.
Show me ya wow. I want to take it.
Ah.
And lick your pussy.
Show me your mouth some more. I like your teeth.
I like you. Touch for me ya. Yes. One hand on your pussy. And lick the other hand. Nice. Want to say my best thing? Do you like it?
Yes.
Have you a dildo, or something like it?
Not really. I could look for something.
Look.
I only found something small.
So, you like small things?
Well, I prefer big.
And what do you do with my dick now? Show me.
I want to sit on you now.
I want to fuck you.
Me too.
Harder. Nice.
Can you hear me?
One sec. Yes, now. Nice. And your ass? Nice pussy. Give me your ass.
I want to see more of you. Can you come?
And you?
I think. Wow.
One sec. We come to jeter LS or more.
Yes, that was good. Yes.
I make sex, also virtual sex, for lady at the first. 10 for Miglia.
Ah. Okay, are you going to show me your face? Why are you so shy about your face?
I think it's part of the play. Or, I am so much gay.
No way.
I show you only for one sec.
What about me? I'm pretty old. Not very cute. Wow. You are very beautiful. Come on. Wow. Wow. You look like my boyfriend. Ha ha ha.
But I have stranger.
How strange can hair be? I like your shirt on your head and... Oh boy. Then maybe you liked my ringtone. Haha.
But not so strange, only dread look.
I had some dreadlocks when I was 19. I am 43.
Nice. I like mature woman. And, you don't seem so old.
I act pretty young. I have a kid though. He's 8.
My dreadlocks are also 8 years old.
Do you like dance hall?
A little bit. When I was younger.
Ah. I am in a heavy dance hall phase. Check this out.
It's the genius again. For the guys one more time now. Yeah. Y'all me why you hold me like a clothespin. I make your breast stand up. I make your ass swing. My girl just gimme, 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 gimme. Gimme, 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 gimme. My girl just gimme, 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 gimme. Gimme, 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 gimme. Me a pum pum god, me no sky god, me no ground god. Me love god, 'cause me love pussy bad. God me come on, woman drive man mad. Come make me take you on a pum pum chat. Girl from Trinidad and Baghdad, from Isla da Bad and girl from Mossad. Rough man nah no girl, why them sad? Them here you get bun, that's why them glad. Film girl you a slapper, for a boom flicker. Rock chicks don't use that chicken chopper. And if you never stand firm in a two with a spitter, bad man DJ, and a singer like Scissor. Straight out work, she say oh me say bizarre. Ready start work, she don't know where me gear. She never know how long time me a look out from the first year when me see her. My girl.
You must grow up.
Huh. I am a professor. That's very grown up, isn't it?
Oof. I didn't have a professor like you.
Maybe you did, but you didn't notice. I'm sure the boys in my class don't notice, in that way.
When I went to school, I understand these things, these professors. Oh, my English.
It's 100 times better than my Italian.
Yes, but English is useful, Italian, not.
Well,
Else you meet an Italian boy in a video chat, and you want to speak with him.
I am jealous of your joint.
Here, take it.
I wish. Pot makes me crazy horny.
What is pot?
Marijuana. Sorry.
Your slang is difficult for a Roman boy. So, if you in California legalize pot, I will come there and you can smoke a pot with me.
That would be great. I live in Los Angeles.
Cool.
I was in Rome when I was 21. As a tourist. Do you know the Venice Biennale?
Oh yes. Sure.
I might be in it next summer.
I had an accreditation for this year. But then I didn't go.
What does that mean exactly?
A free pass?
Oh. For the architecture one?
No, for the cinema one.
Oh, okay. I will go for the art one. Well, I might. I'm not sure yet.
As tourist, or for an invitation?
As an artist in the exhibition.
Cool, I hope for you.
I went 4 years ago, but I could only stay for 1 day. It was insane.
It was insane also for the cinema. But it's an experience. And then a few years I must win it. As a play.
Oh no. I have to go. Right away.
Okay,
I hope to see you soon. I like this very much.
this is my Skype, lady.
One of a very long piece called My Best Thing. The whole thing in its entirety is as long as a feature film, so it's really quite a watch, and it's in 11 episodes. So the artwork is made by Francis Stark, who is an American interdisciplinary artist and writer, whose work centers on the use and meaning of language and the translation of this process into the creative act. Stark is known for her frank and effective work in collage, drawing, and performance, which often utilizes language as both subject and material, to explore anxieties and the inherent frustrations in our ability or failure to communicate. Much of Stark's work navigates the chaotic spaces of technology and their implications for our personal relationships. So here on the screen on the left, you can see the work, and that's when it was shown at the Venice Biennale. And then on the right, you can see examples of her sculpture and drawing. So you can see they're quite in contrast, and My Best Thing really does stand out, I would say, in her practice as very different in this aesthetic. But I wouldn't say it's any less successful. So Stark created My Best Thing using a now defunct open source software called Extra Normal, the logo of which you would have seen in the lower left corner throughout the whole video. Stark has also used PowerPoint and Instagram as a means of producing artwork, which, like Perry, is part of an overall practice of using technologies and software that are readily available and user-friendly. Stark describes wanting people to have an experience with some intimacy, even though the voices and physical representations are digital. The work's narrative, which is both funny and uncomfortable in some parts, is based on a series of online communications between the artist and 2 Italian male strangers, which took place during the run-up to her inclusion in the Venice Biennale in the summer of 2011. So the Venice Biennale is a big arts festival held in Venice every 2 years. Stark met the Italians through internet chat sites, and they communicated with instant messaging and webcams. Stark used the free software to make the animation in which her character and that of the male strangers are presented as crude, Playmobil-like Adam and Eve figures wearing fig leaf underwear. The figures appear against a bright green monochrome background and speak with electronic voices. Stark's words are voiced in a soft American accent, and the two Italians in a crude and amusing computerized Italian accent. So we only experienced one of the Italian men in that first episode. Something that Stark was really concerned about is how to make the overall work, which was nearly 140 minutes long, how it would hold a viewer's attention. So her solution to that was splitting it up into the 11 episodes. Each episode, after that one we just watched, begins with a summary of the previous installment. And I do think it was quite successful because it really does draw you in that work. Even though it is long, you keep on wanting to watch it. It's like a reality TV show. So if anyone has any questions or any comments, we can open up for a little bit of a chat. I can start us off if we want for the School of Cyborg, because I think it's what makes it funny is listening to like a digital avatar speaking that kind of language, especially when they're like a kid's toy digital avatar. So I think there's quite a lot there for those that are interested in the idea of the cyborg. And obviously there's a lot, the main topic is really about digital sex, which is such a huge thing with thinking about whether our bodies are cyborgs. If you're thinking about how people are having sex online, basically, and through technology.
So the visual landscape was really interesting with that really luminescent green and those characters. There's a humour in it.
Yeah.
And I think there's to a certain extent there's humour in sex. It's kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of.
And this really heightens that.
Yeah.
And makes it really funny by taking away the actual human body out of it.
Yeah. Oh, I have a little.
Ooh. Well, if we don't have any more, we can move on to our next artwork. We're going to say something about it.
Actually, that animation reminds me of the movie Her. If you know about this movie, it's like the main characters kind of have the sex with a cyborg, a kind of cyborg, in the future.
Mhm.
So that's really, to be honest, it's really pathetic. It's really pathetic, but when you have to, when you're alone, then you have to get a relation with the AI, with a non-existing human being. But that's also make me think about what is existing. If you have really, you can communicate with another human being using the similar language, similar voice, and similar, the emotion expression. Maybe you can feel existing as well as a human being. So yeah.
And I guess the original conversation, I mean, they were face to face on a screen, so that is far more explicit, and that is two bodies. Whereas by changing it into a digital avatar, she's totally changed it into something else, which people can watch and laugh at, and it's far different. Something that I guess might be interesting to think about for everyone is seeing if you can date or guess the dates of them based on their kind of digital aesthetic, because the first one we watched was much later. This one for the 2011 Biennale, so probably made in 2010, and I think the graphics, and then also the fact that they were using things like chat roulette and stuff like that, help you to date it a bit.
That is a real throwback.
Shall we move on to the next one? This next one does make a few references to to race, just to let everyone know. But we go ahead, this one should work.
It should play in the screen.
It should play in the screen, yeah.
If anyone has problems with it online, just give us a shout and we'll send you the link direct.
Hi, Maria.
Hey, welcome to Manor Park.
Thanks for having us. Ready to start your 30 questions?
Sure,
So how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
Jabby gone wild.
How would your friends describe you in 3 words?
Mixed bad art.
How would you describe your art in 3 words?
Probably two. Two.
Could you show us around?
Yes, of course. This is my favourite fruit stall. Further down is Muhammad's pharmacy. I used to work there. It was my first and worst job ever.
Why was it so bad?
I'm too lazy to work hard.
How long have your parents lived in London?
For about 30-something years.
आप उर्दू जानते हो?
Nay,
What's your dream job?
to be a florist.
So what's your favourite flower?
Hydrangeas.
The last time you cried?
On the way here.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Dead.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Dead.
How do you think you'll die?
Hate crime.
Most racist thing you've been called?
Go home, you dirty barky cunt.
Who called you that?
White man in a white van.
Favourite colour?
White.
Favourite colour hijab?
Black.
Favourite prayer position?
Surgery.
What's one thing you'd say to your parents they haven't said?
Thank you.
Why didn't you say it to them?
We're an awkward family.
Favourite dish your mum makes?
Dal shovel.
Is it true you look just like your dad?
Yes, I get called Minima Foods.
Great, thanks, Frankie. So that artwork was called 30 Questions with Maria Mafous, obviously made by Maria herself. Maria is a London-based artist who works on themes of othering framed within the context of internet culture and using herself as a direct source of reference. The work that she makes is often autobiographical, guided by her identity as a visible Muslim woman of colour. Her practice interrogates themes of representation, construction of selfhood, and the intersections at play between them. She uses green screens to transport herself into different environments as a way of controlling how she presents her body and to construct narratives in a different context. So the work that we watch directly plays off of a series of YouTube videos that the US Vogue magazine creates, which is called 73 Questions With, which is where they interview whichever celebrity or model is on the front cover of their magazine each month. So Mafous uses this interview style format in a way to interview herself, but without really interviewing herself, because obviously she is instead interviewing the animated version that she has created of herself. So she wanted to create a distance between like her actual self and then the answers that she gives. Mafous herself says that by using this format, she wanted to play on the questions that celebrities are often asked to bring up a trauma of racist abuse that she has faced as a form of racist critique in the context of popular culture. To do so, she situated herself on the streets of Manor Park, which is the roots of her parents' migration. So on this screen, I put up a couple of other examples of her work, and I was wondering if anyone would be able to guess at why I chose to put this one after Frances Stark's that we watched before. If there's any similarities.
Colour palette.
Mm-hmm. So this artwork here on the left is called Arab Fuckers. And I decided not to play that one just because it was very similar to the first one. I don't know if it was directly inspired by it, but it's two digital avatars, male and female, obviously against the green, but alongside also sexual connotations, it brings in race together. So I thought this would be a good one to include after the Frances Stark one, because it's almost like an update, both in like the technology used. You can see like the animation is a little bit more modern, but also I suppose the topics that it's like addressing. So if anyone else has any comments that they would like to input, feel free.
When was this one made?
So this one is far more recent. This is 2019, and she's a young artist, a recent graduate as well.
And you mentioned that this artist creates the avatar of herself and interviews herself, and now that I know more information about her age and her experience, is really difficult, and it's so recent, so it's really, to consider this as a spectator, it's so difficult, that she hears those words talk to her, fall to her face. It's really sad. Yeah.
And there's a lot to draw in about the idea of obviously the cyborg as well. She's creating a digital version of herself to interview, perhaps as a way of coming to terms with, rather than being able to think about it herself, she's creating someone that she sees as like herself to interview and approach those topics.
I like that she used that. Did you see she used that a magazine format for questioning or something like that? Yeah.
So the title is 30 Questions with Mariam Mafuz, and then the way that Vogue do it is on YouTube, and it's 73 questions with, and it's a very slick and kind of pre-answered thing that they do.
And I remember thinking something years ago. We used to get a newspaper, and there was a Sunday magazine, and every Sunday it would show you a celebrity, and they didn't have your celebrity, but it showed the contents of the fridge, and that was supposed to give you great insight into this person. And I remember thinking how fucking puerile and nonsensical all this was. But nowadays I see politicians adopting the same media and marketing strategies in their campaigns. Repetition, simple things over and over and over again to convince the public of something. So I think it's a really good technique to parody the media in order for artists to get across to make points, because the anatomy of them, it's a science to them. They know how to catch people's attention. They know how to drive home messages, and by adopting similar techniques and parodying and laughing at it, is a really effective way to make that.
Exactly, and that's what she says herself, by using, she is parodying this kind of cheesy format that they use on their YouTube videos, but to approach much darker and more serious topics, which I suppose in a similar way to how Frances Stark did it, it makes those topics almost palatable to a viewer by using it as an avatar, because you can really listen, and it's the way of viewing it and getting information across to people.
I just wondered if the audience were clear on what was just said online.
The core of the question from me.
Could someone online clarify what you meant in regards to the core of the question?
Hello. Sorry, we're experiencing probably a bit of connectivity issues. So maybe just if you can cover again the themes in a very synthetic manner, so that maybe who hasn't had the occasion to have a clear connection can return to the core of this last bit just after the video. You had a bit of conversation, but it was a bit difficult to grasp because it was a bit robotic. Just that.
We were just talking about the way that kind of the media uses stuff like the Vogue 73 questions YouTube videos, and how they can be a bit cheesy, and the information that they hold is kind of pointless to the viewer, and how Maria in her work has used that that format to kind of flip it on its head and talk about much darker subjects, but make it kind of easy for the viewer to take in by using this avatar.
Would it be useful? Is there one particular one of the 73 questions that you've seen that you might think might be a good point of reference to give more context to the?
Oh, and any of them, they're all like that. But I think we can maybe just reference that for if people do want to watch that. All you have to do is look up on YouTube Vogue 73 questions.
No, that's fine. I was going to throw a link in maybe at the end of this. But just
sure.
The Kim and Kanye one's like especially ridiculous.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah, and at the end of the talk, School of Cyborg are going to put up links to all of these videos on the website. So if you do want to go back and watch them and make comparisons, you'll be able to do that. Should we move on to the next one?
Of course.
Yeah. So this artwork is made by an artist called Petra Courtright, who you'll see in the video here. She uses her own image. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce the name of this. It is webcam, but instead of a W, spelt with two V's. So it might be webcam. This work is a portrait of the artist as a computer user whose primary mode of existence is recording and being watched. Departing from the direct-to-camera address typical of early video art and the ubiquitous selfies of today's social media, webcam features Courtright sitting impassively in front of a webcam as she manipulates the clip art moving about her face. The video was made for YouTube, where the artist mimicked the cam girl genre and initially exploited the comment section of the website as much as the video itself, using keywords to attract viewers searching for erotic or offensive content and sabotaging their experiences. This led to numerous angry and confused commenters with whom Courtright often engaged in all-out online comment wars with. set the sales price for this piece based on the views that it accrued on YouTube. So the spam keywords were a really important element of this strategy, as they drove up her video's view counts higher, and therefore made the value of her that she could sell her work for much higher as well. This approach eventually led to YouTube's decision to take down the video. I'm wondering maybe if anyone can guess from the aesthetic of the video what kind of era it might have been made in.
Two 2007.
Very good.
How come?
Very good.
How come you know?
It's such a vibe.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I had to remember it, but it had to be a long time ago.
Yeah. So it's 2007 that this work was made in, which is our earliest one we're looking at today. So it's pre kind of the filters that we would be used to with, say, like Instagram or Snapchat. So the way that she's using them is actually quite original back then, and it's a way that they weren't necessarily used. The deletion of this work on YouTube meant that the work was inaccessible in its original form. So an online platform that specializes in digital art called Rhizome was able to reconstruct the work from parts of the video that were found on public web archives. So a little bit more about the artist Petra Courtwright. She uses a range of digital and analog media to explore the aesthetics of online consumption and performance. She did first rise to prominence and popularity with the work that we just watched. And kind of moving on from then, she did all of her work through YouTube up until quite recently, when she's made a shift over to digital paintings. So I've included one just on the right there. So she makes her digital paintings by using Photoshop to manipulate, distort, and paint over imagery that she harvests online. And then she prints those final works, which can range from like figures to abstraction onto really large aluminium sheets. One of the other works that I've included in the middle is quite a funny work that I didn't include today. That it's not really represented online in any good quality video, but that sits in between her early YouTube works and her digital paintings. And it's a very funny video where she uses backgrounds that you can download for a computer. So they kind of range like this, like mystical forest, and then a open source software which you can download strippers onto your desktop. So the normal use of that app would be that people would download it and they'd be using their computer and strippers would just pop up. But what she does is contrast that with these really crazy backgrounds, which rather than actually looking like a computer desktop, looks like this really warped fairy tale kind of art piece. So does anyone have anything that they would like to chat about, or any comments?
Oh no, it's already cracked up. Sorry, apologies. I believe there was some questions in the chat.
Sure.
So Alison, is that the last one?
I think it's about the first.
Okay,
I've been thinking about
So Alison asked a question referring to about Francis Stark's work that we have been seeing before, but I think that also some part of this question cover this last contribution. I've been thinking about drawing together something Marina mentioned in the first discussion, with talking about the workshop we had this morning with Marina Dragzilla, about the most common question asked to Alexa, which was a proposal for a fellatio, let's call it like that. And the discussion a few minutes ago about Francis Stark's work, unfortunately, Alison couldn't be there for the conversation. I'm not quite sure where to go with this, but I'm thinking about tropes of masculinity and how confusing they are. Could we speak more about desire in digital space?
Yeah, thanks, Evie. We'll take that. I think that's a really interesting question, like how we observe ourselves and our wants and needs in these digital spaces and how we interact with the things around us. Like in this last video, like what's going through Petra's head, and what's made like the desire to choose all of these objects that are floating around her. What has driven her to choose those specific images? Why are they so important? Or is it just an experimentation of the desire to have fun and explore those spaces? Are we talking about desire in terms of like romantic desire, or are we talking about desire for fun? Like can it be one or the other, or can it be both at the same time?
So I know Alison was talking about a romantic desire, I think, in like a cyborg body, supposedly. So kind of online sex, and then with Petra, it's definitely more of a fun thing. So I don't know if Alison is. I think she's more interested in talking about like the digital desire in like a romantic or just in a sexual way, maybe not romantic.
Yeah. I think like there's maybe not romantic or a guy. Okay. Yeah. It is like we're going to touch on some of this kind of stuff tomorrow as well. We're talking about virtual identity and virtual sex, and kind of becoming part of like our conversations with Shannon McRae. So maybe this is something that we take from all three to bring towards the end, and maybe we'll have a clearer idea of where this might sit within the kind of virtual world and the cyborg body. But yeah, there's definitely Alison's just put more things. Yes, also the link between drive and creativity and drive and expression. Has anyone got anything else to add?
Yes, I want to add that if we want to think about, I don't know, the cyborg's intellectual space, if it's the internet. So you know that like most of the volume of the internet is porn, right? And much of the digital spaces are dedicated to all those kind of desires, and those things even exist within gaming communities. There are patches to game where you can, instead of playing the normal game, you could have like romantic and sexual relationships. It's kind of interesting, this whole notion of cybersex, which is extremely popular. And there have been a few artists that try to understand this kind of that kind of desire manifested in a completely virtual world, where the connection between two bodies is obviously mediated by images and sounds that very many times are lagging and glitching and offer a lot of disturbances in communication. And maybe one of the artists that come to mind right now is Chao Fei, who has made a huge project in Second Life, which is an online virtual world multiplayer game, where she explores exactly that sense of falling in love online. We know also that many marriages come online. We know that many relationships start in those ways. So she kind of explores that absence of the body. She has a whole romance with a person online, and they are having children. Their children are virtual. They're taking care of them in that space. And she has an artwork where she interviews her child and asks her all kinds of questions about the real world, but then the child does not know how to answer questions about her own body. Just things that came into my mind to maybe, if we want to speak more about desiring in digital spaces. And I think that there is a lot to be said also about how those kind of manifestations of desire are replacing interpersonal and intimate relationships, or are interfering within interpersonal and intimate relationships. Not interfering, but if we speak about the cyborg, we said before in the conversation about AI, we said how being a cyborg means that AI is not something that is separate from us, but something that conditions us, that is like patched into our brains. The same goes here. So this technology becomes a really integral part. If you look at, for example, young gamers or teenagers that are constantly online, those mediation devices become a really important part of their sexual expression. So besides criticism, there is also something that emerges, like a new culture or a new way of expressing desire, expressing sexuality, which is quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. I guess the question with these artists in relation to the cyborg is, can we consider them cyborgs because they're making digital art rather than physical? I'm conscious of time, so we've got two more to get through. Should we move on to the next one, and then for those that have the time at the end, we can have longer conversation?
Absolutely, and we'll add that link of what Lee's just mentioned later on.
It's false. No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. Not this time. No, not this time. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. It's totally made up. It never happened. It's false. It's a fake. It's fiction. It's fiction. This one was invented by a writer. We made up this one. Not this time. 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 We created it. No, wrong. No, we made it up. We created it. It's fiction. No way. We got you. Not a chance. Not this time. It never happened. It never happened. We made this one up. It's fiction. We made up this one. We made it up. Not this time. Wrong. Not this time. Not this time. It never happened. You're wrong. Not this time. It never happened. It never happened. We made it up. It never happened. It's a made-up tale. It never happened. Not this time. No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. No, not this time. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It never happened. It never happened. This one was invented by a writer. It's a fake. It's fiction. We made it up. It never happened. It's a made-up tale. It never happened. Not this time. No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. No, not this time. No way. We got you. Not a chance. Not this time. It never happened. It never happened. We made this one up. It's a total fabrication. Not this time. This one was invented by a writer. We created it. It's fiction. No. This one was invented by a writer. It's a made-up tale. We made this one up. This one was invented by a writer. It never happened. We made up this one. Not this time. 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 It's totally made up. It's fiction. We made this one up. This one was invented by a writer. It's fiction. It's a made-up tale. It's fiction. It's fiction. This one was invented by a writer. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. It's fiction. It's fiction. It's a fake. It's fiction. It's totally made up. It never happened. It never happened. This one was invented by a writer. It's false. No, no, no. Not this time. It never happened.
Thanks, Frankie. So this artwork was created by Canadian. Oh, are we on the wrong one? There we go.
I was just making sure you weren't muted.
Created by the Canadian London-based artist Sin Wai Kin, formerly known as Victoria Sin, and the work is called Total Fabrication. So Sin Wai Kin is an artist who uses speculative fiction within performance, moving image, writing, and print to interrupt normative processes of desire, identification, and objectification. Sin Wai Kin identifies as non-binary. Their performances ply apart femininity in order to expose gender as an elaborate social construct, a comedic opera of many composite parts relying on myth, performance, and spectatorship. So Sin Wai Kin has lots of very interesting art. This piece that we watched is one of the only examples of their work that you can view online. They work a lot with video, but because they do have a lot of work with galleries and stuff, it's all only viewable with trailers and through still images online. But this one is that we watched previously is free to view for all because it was commissioned as part of works in progress at the works and process, at the Guggenheim Museum. And just a little bit of information about the artwork itself. This is an artist's statement that goes alongside the artwork. So in the opening credits of the television series Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, which ran between 1997 and 2002, viewers are asked, having trouble separating fact from fantasy, you will join Star Trek's Jonathan Frakes and question what is truly real. So it uses an audio excerpt, which is taken from YouTube. So the YouTuber is called Wintermoot, and the title of the YouTube video is Jonathan Frakes telling you you're wrong for 47 seconds. So what Sim Wykin is obviously doing is lip syncing to that audio. So those of you that might be familiar with drag culture, lip syncing is a really large part of that. And Sim Wykin includes a lot of kind of drag and different personas in their own artworks. So does anyone have any comments or questions they would like to raise about the video we watched?
It made me chuckle when you said it was about Jonathan Frakes, especially when from Star Trek, because obviously William Shatner's just been sent up into space.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the kind of what is real and what is not real. You're sending a character actually into into the stratosphere.
And it's obviously from a TV series, I think, after his movie star fame, that he narrated this fact or fiction TV series. But I think it's interesting that they've used an audio from an old TV show and then brought it back now, and it has a totally different meaning, because when I first saw it, it immediately made me think of fake news, because it's just repeating to you again and again. And it's obviously Sim Wykin here is kind of just with a single line of a drawn moustache, like creating this kind of mask persona. And the reason I put it after Petra Kortrek's one is I thought it would show just an interesting contrast kind of in the dates. This one is far more modern, it's 2020. And I guess you can kind of see that just in the difference in technology, like in the ring lights, you can see in their eyes, you can see the ring light that they've used. And almost the way that they're speaking to the camera as well. It's a bit like watching a YouTube video of like a team kind of practicing performing to a camera. Are there any more comments?
Okay, so it's just referring to the has anyone online got any thoughts or comments on the work so far?
That's fine if not, because I'm very conscious of the time and I'd love to get through the last one just in time. So.
Okay, so
this is the link.
This is the link.
This is the
okay.
link, yeah.
So Carlo will, for the guys online, Carlo will drop the link in the chat, and I'll turn off the sound in the room so you can hear it.
Perfect. So that was our last artwork that we're going to be looking at today, and it's called Queer Use, and it's made by the Irish Glasgow-based artist duo Kat and Ian McClay. So they are a very talented and productive duo. And I say productive because I would say that the artwork we just watched is one of their earlier pieces, and it was made in 2020. And their work is like kind of vastly changing from what we saw, which was like a digital collage and animation, to some really impressive 3D animation. So I've included some kind of the latest examples of their work on the images here. And I would highly recommend having a look at their Instagram because it's very impressive 3D work. But Kat and Nina's practice considers ideas of queerness, abjection, and patriarchal systems of power and oppression through an interdisciplinary body of work comprising of video, 3D models, installation, and digital collage. Experimental writing is very important to their practice. So we might not have seen an example of that in Queer Use, but as you can see in these images, they're all subtitled. There's like a narrative that goes with it. They have developed experimental and auto-theoretical prose, which they have expanded into narratives for moving image work. Through their own personal experiences, they collapse the distance between author and viewer by combining animation, popular culture, and cultural theory. They reject the separation of high and low cultural material. Through this non-hierarchical approach, they aspire to make theory and philosophy accessible to a wider audience. Their work often takes a critical approach, and through appropriation and reinterpretation, they have subverted the heterocentric narratives of popular cultural texts, including fairy tales and the Bible. Queer Use, the video that we watched, focuses on themes of queerness, magic, and objectification. Using animation, the artist constructs surreal events and imagery, creating, both of them creating, I guess, from an embodied perspective. They describe their collaborative art making process as a relationship that rejects individualism and that reflects their belief in ideas of mutual care and empowerment. So I guess in terms of the queer use video we watched, it's interesting to know as well that they're not just sisters but identical twins. So using their body parts obviously as the animation and all the multiples of them is an interesting idea, especially I suppose thinking about the idea of the cyborg, because they are directly kind of digitizing their physical selves. Are there any questions or comments from anyone?
Wondering the title, queer use, why and how use this title, and how to connect the concept of queer to this kind of physical body.
Sure.
Yeah.
I suppose that's probably a question that's best directed at the artist, because I think if an individual kind of or a duo identify as queer, it's up to them to kind of leave it as ambiguous as they want, which also a lot of artists will do. So I would say it's probably through the use of their own body parts. As a duo of females that is perhaps queering.
I was thinking about in the workshop ways of seeing tries to kind of look at, as far as I understand, trying to look at how to read digital artworks or even digital communication. And these artworks make me think about the notion of the haptic, or in the ways in which within digital virtual spaces our sensual faculties are being triggered by intellectual stimuli. So you could have a kind of bodily reaction to a visual, or sound as if you were close to the material, even though it's completely virtual. And then to speak about the fact that, maybe to bring up the fact that that much of the communication that we do online, or much of how we can define this kind of virtual world, is through this kind of simulation of senses, constantly in this kind of space where our bodies don't really react directly to reality, but they react to a simulation of reality, and it creates a completely different sensual realm within our perception. So when we speak about technology extending or changing our perceptual modes or our perceptual understanding of the world, it's kind of interesting to think about that digital art actually, many times, especially when speaking about embodiment within the digital realm, uses this transference between senses in order to point to those new sensual, maybe sensibilities that we have or that we are developing. We tend to think about the virtual as completely detached from the body, but it is absolutely not. So yeah, that's just a thought that came watching this really wonderful work.
I'm conscious of the time, so I don't want to keep those online if they do have to go. But I want to say thank you to everyone that came, and I guess I'll hand over to maybe School of Cyber for those that want to continue the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, does anyone else?